Hello, everyone. Welcome to day 2 of the youth track of the Geo Week 2021. It's a great pleasure to have you here. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone online. We're kicking off our presentation and 1.5-hour session today with a focus on accelerating action with youth, with a focus on the regions of the Americas and Africa. Florian was so kind to set up the session and is going to run the slide deck. Florian, please, the first slide. Yeah, pleasure to meet you all. I'm Veronica Newmeyer. I'm the MC of today, guiding you through this 1.5 hours. And I'm happy to share with you a lot of interesting speakers and insights. Next slide, please. Yeah, so just a quick recap on what happened on day 1, the very first day of the youth track as part of the Geo Week. We're very excited to have this as part of the Geo engagement and as a key milestone moving forward. We know that the youth engagement has been critical in many, many dialogues over the past few years. We just recently finished COP26, where the youth track is becoming one very critical component. And so also in Geo Week, this is essential. And we can say that day 1 was actually quite a success. We had over 100 participants from all over the world who joined the session and discussion. And we would like to keep up this pace and invite you to be active, share your questions in the Q&A box, and feel free to also take notes and give inspiring comments. We had a broad variety of participants also from the private sector, which is very encouraging. So we want to make this as inclusive beyond academia and science. Next slide, please. Yeah, so we touched on a lot of different topics, and we looked at the different links between GIS and Earth observation, but we also looked at where GEO can actually serve as a global partner in different types of settings and partnerships with both national entities, but also the private sector. We looked at how youth can actually become more integrated in the process of creating knowledge and sharing this type of knowledge, to make it as applicable as possible, and also to look more towards the future in terms of what are the new job opportunities, the new scientific fields that are going to open up, but also the use cases and where EO can link to issues of climate change, disaster risk reduction, and obviously sustainable development. You can find all the recap and actually the newsletter by IISD. You see the link, and we will share, of course, the slide deck at the end of the session. So a very successful kickoff of day 1, and we're excited to continue day 2. We have a few more statistics, but we can see that we're actually covering all age ranges and engagement priorities, which is really great. Yes, so today's agenda will feature 2 components. We have a keynote speaker, Theo Nakalema, and I think there's an issue with the slide deck, but so the agenda is basically a keynote, and then we will have an open discussion. And the second component, followed after a short break, will be 4 short presentations and a second discussion round. And today's focus is really about understanding where Earth observation is already contributing on the ground, where those stakeholders of the GEO community, but also beyond are contributing, and how we can actually link this to a community of practice of young professionals, students from universities, PhD students, or young professionals moving into the space. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our keynote speaker for today, Theopista Nakalema. She is a GIS and remote sensing expert, currently working for the FAO, and she is doing quite some interesting work in Uganda on the ground on deforestation. And she's also part of an entity called Women in GIS Uganda, supporting females in the space and contributing to Earth observations. Theo, the floor is yours. Looking forward to your presentation.
Hello everyone, good evening. Give me a minute to share. Minute. Can everyone see my screen?
No.
Not here, not yet.
Not yet.
Yes. Otherwise, maybe Florian
Yeah,
can...
I can share, yes.
Okay.
Perfect.
Just 1 second. Okay. So let me share my screen. Sorry for the delay. Okay, so now you should be able to see the screen. Is it working?
Yeah, it's coming
All
on.
right.
Yes, we can see it.
All right, perfect.
Okay. Yeah, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are. I'm currently in Uganda and it is already 8 p.m. So greetings to you all. Like Veronica said, I'm Tropista Nakalema. I will not go so much in introducing myself. She has already said it. And I'm here to represent the women in GIS in this youth tracker of Geo Week. Next slide, please. Yeah, so my topic today, I want to talk about how we are using the Earth observation data to monitor deforestation in the country. And in this slide, I'm showing an overview of what deforestation is and the different drivers. To the left, you can see a picture where we are having a clear-cut forest and some of the drivers being poverty, population growth, and other things. And to the right, we can see some of the impacts of deforestation, which are linked to the climate change effects. And these include like flooding, excessive drought, landslides, and things like that. So to be able to inform the policy about what is happening, we use Earth observation or remote sensing information to monitor these changes that are happening on the ground. Next slide, please. So basically, this helps to inform the policy, to make the policy makers understand where these issues are happening and to what magnitude. And it can help them to make effective decisions in terms of implementing weather restoration of the forest and other decisions. So in order to monitor these changes on the ground, we can visit the ground with ground-based monitoring, but this is usually expensive in terms of money and time. So this is where remote sensing comes in handy to help in closing that gap, because there you can easily and freely get the information, analyze it in a short time possible, and it can be analyzed at a large scale. So this is why it is really so important for us to utilize this technology, utilize the remote sensing information to monitor the forests and anything on the ground. Next slide, please. So with my team at FAO and the National Forestry Authority of Uganda, we have been using a number of tools to do the deforestation monitoring in the country, and basically using the satellite images like the ones mentioned there, Landsat, Sentinel, and we have also started utilizing the NICIFI planet data, the level 1, which is provided free by the NICIFI program. And with this, we use the CIPO platform, which is a cloud-based platform developed by FAO for land monitoring. In this platform, you can basically access satellite images, you can do analysis using supercomputers, all at a free cost, and you can easily do this in a very short time. So it is one tool that we have been utilizing. And within this tool, we have a number of tools that you can use to do a number of analyses that you want. So in this case, we are monitoring deforestation, and we are using the BeFaster tool, which is basically a time series analysis tool, which I'm going to talk about in the next slide. So BeFast tool is basically a time series change detection algorithm which estimates the time and number of abrupt changes in the time series. So basically you put in you have a time series of images, let me say Landsat, from 2002 to 2020. So when you put it in this tool, you are able to analyze the time when the changes happened and the magnitude plus the direction, whether it is a positive or a negative change. So in the graph, we can see a time series from 2000 to 2016, 17. And in this tool, you specify the history period and the monitoring period. So in the monitoring period, that's where you want to monitor the changes. And in this case, we have a change that was detected in 2015. So basically, you use the images you have in a time series, you put in this tool to monitor when the changes have happened at a given point in space. Next slide. So this is an example of the change map for Uganda, which we produced for the years 2015, 2017. And we have a number of classes, change classes, including deforestation. Next slide. Yes, so for this example, we have this is a part of a central forest reserve called Bugoma, and we can see that point, the algorithm detected that there was deforestation. And when we look at the information in the time series to the bottom right, you can see that in 2016, there was a break that was detected in the time series, indicating a change had happened, and in the magnitude of a negative, indicating deforestation had happened. Next slide. Yeah, this is also another example of an area we are seeing deforestation. Next slide. Yeah, so in this case, this is also to kind of validate what we are seeing in the BeFast analysis. So we have this polygon, which in 2013, we had forest, which is indicated by the red that shows healthy vegetation on the ground. And when you go through time, you can see 2013, 14, 15, we still have a healthy vegetation or forest. And then 2016, we can see that the forest had been cleared. So with this time series information and the BeFast analysis, we can quickly check through the country to see where all these changes are happening, which we can share with the policymakers for them to make informed decisions. Next slide. So to wind up, let me talk about how the youth have been involved in this. Me personally, I'm still a youth, and my team is composed of 11 people, and 8 of those are in the age bracket of 25 to 35. So to that extent, I would say the National Forest Authority and FAO have tried or are still trying to see how to involve the youth in all this, to make sure that they get involved, they learn, and they acquire these skills. So to that extent, I would say yes, we are involved, but to a larger extent in general, youth involvement is still limited. And this is also because of the limited capacity in the use of Earth observation tools, which requires learning and different collaborations. Next slide. So future perspectives, I think it will be good to continue to build capacity through the geo network, to continue bringing these opportunities where we can provide the networking opportunities to the youth. For example, in this youth tracker, if probably it can happen every year that it is included, it will be a very good opportunity for us to network, because I didn't know about GEO until when I was invited to make a presentation. So it is really very good to continue providing these networking opportunities for the youth. And another opportunity can be in terms of exchanging visits for learning, where people can, from Uganda, can go to the US or can go to anywhere for any learning opportunities, including putting their internships or something of a sort. And of course, more collaborations between the geo and the country governments, putting the youth in focus. It's also one of the opportunities that can make youth more involved in the processes. Next slide. So these are the organizations I'm representing. Besides the Women in GIS, I'm also representing the National Forest Authority and the FAO, especially the SEPA team, which makes all these tools that we use to have all this information that I'm talking about today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Theo. Thanks for your very insightful presentation and also your frank sort of like assessment of where we stand and the need for inclusion of youth. I think it was interesting to see your data points and also how to concretely use it. And you made this point in terms of using the resources wisely in terms of time and money. So maybe there's also a way that some of the youth can feed in by, using new technologies in a different way. And the more people we are able to include, the better. So great input with the networking. I think that's what we're already trying to do today. Yes, so thanks for the keynote. I would like to introduce now Gilberto Guevara, who's the moderator of the first open discussion. He's based in Puerto Rico and actually has a long-standing track record of different areas, from being a practitioner on the ground, working with youth on disaster risk reduction with the Red Cross Red Crescent. And currently he's conducting a PhD with the Inter-American University, also linked to Earth observation. Gilberto, thanks so much for being here, and handing over to you.
Excellent and very encouraging. I was very happy to see some of the notes from Teopista's presentation, because that's what we're about, getting the youth, getting the new generations engaged in this whole process. I did that through the work at the Federation of Red Cross Red Crescent, and I'm very proud of all of the results that have come out. For this session, we have 27 participants. I would encourage the participants to openly ask questions or make their comments. In order for Florian to open their mics, we would need to see your hands. So as you go down the bar in your computer, you'll see the icons. Just raise your hand, and then Florian will be able to open up the mic for you. In terms of the discussion, what I'd like to pose is a provoking question, as the aim here is to start a community of practice among the youth from the Earth observations perspective. There are a number of issues that we need to begin to address, and perhaps that would be the starting point for the community of practice. As with the change of governments, we see that there are a lot of people that make promises. I think in this instance, what we want to do is make sure that no one is left behind, particularly with bridging the gap of technology. As I listened to some of the previous presentations in this very intense conference for the last couple of days, I see that there are a number of places where we can improve. And certainly, youth will have to lead the way for us to see how we can begin to reduce the risk of our inhabitants. So, having set the stage for the next 15 or so minutes, the question is, what are your proposals, or what are your visions, or what are your suggestions for starting this practice, this community of practice among youth? Remember to please raise the hand so that Floria can open the mic. If not, be free to put your notes on the chat. I see a lot of notes on the chat complimenting the participation so far of the youth, facing the challenges of the future. I see the participation from the African continent. We have some representation from the Americas. I noticed earlier on several of the students from Angelica Gutierrez were participating in this group. So we have 32 participants. Let's see if we can get some discussion going from the 32 participants. How can we ensure equal access to the Earth observations? Anyone interested in commenting or opening up from their perspective or their experiences this particular item? How do we ensure equal access as we're gaining more and more distance with the technology advancing the way it is? Artificial intelligence is way ahead in many fronts. I saw several of the presentations today from Aries and Seas, where the integration of the databases into creating the maps is tremendous, is going ahead. What role do you think geo plays in moving ahead and promoting this community of practice? What is the vision from the participants in this chat, the youth who will need to continue this effort that has already been started by many of the international communities? Anyone interested in commenting from the 31 participants that we have? I see a comment coming in, the conduct of human-centered design. That's very good. I see Ricardo Quiroga from NASA coming on board and the presentation. Is there anyone who would like to speak? What would you like to share in terms of your ideas to formalize this youth community of practice? Since there's no one raising their hands, perhaps I can ask Ricardo Quiroga, esteemed colleague, to comment on some of the efforts. I know you'll hear Liliana Castillo later on from Colombia, in some of the activities of the youth. Ricardo, can you open the mic and give us some inputs as to how you see this youth community of practice in Earth observations moving forward?
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity and congratulations to the young people to came on the table to this kind of discussions. I think we are living now a data momentum in the world. We have a big amount of data, but we need to catalyze this data. We need to humanize the data, humanize the models. I think the young people could be those who bring the data to the communities, who bring the data to their own region to answer the critical questions on disaster reduction, for example, on decision making on sustainable development goals and that kind of stuff. I think the young people, they know technology, they know they have the opportunity, and we are living now data momentum, something similar that we were 20 years ago with the cell phones, cell phone technology. We are starting out night teledetection, many new resources coming, new satellites, but I think the young people can bring to occupy these kind of spaces to bring the data to the people. That's my comment. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Excellent, Ricardo. And to pick up on it, I think we're looking at the youth. That's the hope for the future. Again, picking up on a comment that was posted on the chat on the conduct of human-centered designs. That is something that needs to be understood. We need to look at the opportunities and the challenges in using these data services. The idea of creating social media, and perhaps that page is almost everybody takes some time during the day to check their social media, highlighting in some aspect of social media, on some of the channels of social media, the work of GEO, explaining what GEO is and highlighting how the youth may become engaged in that process. Thank you, Madison, for that comment. It's an excellent comment. I have a comment from Sophia Lu also, who's saying the GeoPath program has been a great pilot for showing the importance of some of the open science and innovation on crowdsourcing. But it's tedious work curating the Earth observation data and services. Perhaps those are the tasks that the patient and the youth would be engaged in. I understand Liliana Castillo wants to participate. So Florian, if you can open the mic. There she is, Liliana. Bienvenida. Welcome.
Thanks. Gracias. Sorry, I had some problems here with the raising my hand. But I think there are many people that are not completely involved in the geosciences, but they are still needing access to information. And sometimes when you think about complicated, let's say complicated software to be able to manage this information, then maybe some people that could use this information are stuck. And there are many, let's say, tools. Many of them are in English or other languages that are not accessible to other people. So I think we, as young people, we are aware of these other ways of transmitting information to other, let's say, to other scientists or other professionals in different areas that might need to use this information. And we might need some ideas. We might have some ideas about how to do it, but sometimes we don't have the resources to do it. Especially, in many countries, it's difficult to be able to be linked to a government organization to be able to, let's say, carry on with all of those ideas. So getting funding for this, let's say, knowledge exchange practices is not easy. And it's not easy to represent, let's say, one organization. So we as individuals would like to do things like, for instance, training people on using geoinformation data in an easy way, but it requires resources that are not always accessible from the organizations in our countries. So maybe open the opportunity to develop independent projects that are linked to GEO, not only as individuals, not only as organizations, but individuals that are aiming to, for instance, spread more knowledge about GIS and Earth observation applications.
Thank you, Liliana. Excellent. Since we have some of the private vendors and purveyors of this equipment, we'll invite some of their comments from the perspective that Liliana just shared. How can a lot of the technologies be extended so that we reach communities where we're not getting to? And perhaps even sharing some of the models that we have seen. From Sarah's comment, she talks about the Ladies of Landsat, which was a successful networking group, amplifying that and bringing that same purpose with Earth observation in this youth commitment. Since we're coming up to the end of this open discussion, I would welcome any thoughts or any recommendations for how to move forward on creating this youth community of practice, of this community of practice among youth. There are some ideas as to how to integrate resources. One perhaps that was mentioned earlier in the comments is the crowdsourcing, the openness of crowdsourcing. Another one that I heard from a previous presentation was how socially responsible the ESG community has become now, and how many of the regulators are beginning to look at and dig deep to see if they're in fact, they're creating the purpose for what ESG was meant to do. So there are some investments that are coming in that will help shape policy on science-based environment, social, and governance issues. So any comments from anybody that would like to suggest how to form or how to start this youth community of practice, or perhaps make some commitments at this point in time, regardless of the continent we're in? We'll see how this wonderful technology has been able to bridge Africa with Americas. It's 1:30 our time. There's Angelica. Angelica, please go ahead.
Sí, buenas tardes, Gilberto. Good afternoon, everyone. I think that, with our experience, I would recommend for the youth to actually connect to the thematic initiatives. GEO has a wealth of activities, and definitely many of you are already in the environmental field, and you are working towards a specific line of business. And so it would be very interesting to have you actually participating in the different thematic activities. I think that would be one of the best low-hanging fruits, as we say, ways to engage.
Very good. Excellent, Angelica. And I know you have a host of students with you. So let's hope that the students are able to pick up some of these technologies and move this forward. We'll be looking forward to the ideas that perhaps some of you can share directly on the chat for forming groups. I know that a number of experiences or experienced practitioners have begun to share some of their ideas. I have one from Mary Nakusev, said that leveraging of existing networks that are already working with youth, as for instance, and Mary cites the women in GIS in Uganda, and you just heard the presentation from Tio, the women in GIS in Kenya, the Africa women in GIS, just to mention a few. So those would be groups that are already formed that could be leveraged and brought into this particular effort. The community of practice should be about engaging the diversity and ensuring the inclusion into the community of practice, so that, as I said earlier, no one is left behind. No one should be left behind. Any other comments here? Sophia Lu, and I would welcome Sophia. Sophia has been very active in the chat. Sophia, would you like to have the mic open so that you can share some of the information that you've been bringing about. There's Sophia. Welcome, Sophia.
Thank you so much. And I'm very excited to hear Amber speak more about, I think, possibly some of the Mapathon activities that we had done. But I think there's just a lot of opportunity to engage the youth and bring their excitement, energy, and their diverse and creative ways of thinking to organize these kinds of events that I think really will blossom the Earth observation enterprise and community across the world. So thank you. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Excellent. Thank you. You've been very prolific in some of the ideas. What we hope to do is capture all of these possibilities, these ideas of how we might start to shape the community of practice, and they'll be available after this discussion. Honoring the time, okay, there's one comment from Stephanie Main. Will Stephanie have the mic open, Florian, so that you can address and discuss this topic? Is Stephanie Wayne? Stephanie speaking. Hello? Go ahead, Stephanie. Stephanie Peralta, sorry. The mic is open, Stephanie, so you have the floor. Tienes la oportunidad de hablar, Stephanie, si lo quieres hacer en español. Con gusto.
Yeah. Good afternoon. Could you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I have some issues with this platform, but well, to comment what I said, I'm honored to be a member of the Health Pathways program, and in this program I have the opportunity with some friends that have like the same years like me. I'm 19 years old. Others one are 18s, and other 20 are in those range of years. And we all have the opportunity to be part of these Health Pathway programs, in which we are able to of learning different tools, new tools for me, from this new perspective about all this world of the peace and so on. So I truly think that programs like this, because it's like maybe internship or kind of that, because I just received the classes or the sessions, and I don't pay anything. And I think that opportunities gave us like I mean, they teach us information that is too important, and those information we received, and then we try to share with our friends and something like that. So I think that that opportunity are important for young people, and for the future. I think that those opportunities are truly important and special. So maybe that's what I would like to say. I'm sorry if my English is not good. I'm not like native, but that's what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. And you raise an interesting point in terms of the community of practice. One starting point might be, or takeoff might be, the actual education, the formal education that you're receiving. I've seen a number of comments in Spanish where people are pointing to the current lessons or the current education that they are receiving in terms of the geo and the Earth observations. There's information, obviously, on how they're becoming more knowledgeable online. Obviously, in Peru, as we know, is one of the big providers of lithium at this point in time. So a lot of that information will be captured or can be well studied through the Earth observations. So we're looking at some of the other comments. The last comment here is from Daniel Leon, is to promote free courses. That would be an opportunity for the youth community of practice to get started, at least forming this bond or the linkages that we're trying to form through conferences like this one, where we're tying the experiences of Africa and the experiences of the Americas. As I'm coming to the end, I'd like to welcome the Secretariat again to introduce the other panelists, the 4 panelists that will be speaking. So I suppose, Veronica, you're back on introducing the next presenters for the rest of the session. So over to you, Veronica.
Yeah, Gilberto, thank you so much. Very engaging discussion. We actually have a break scheduled, so we have a bit of freedom in terms of how we want to proceed. There was a lot of comments in the chat, so we're definitely trying to filter that and use this for the steps coming forward. I think at this point I would like to quickly summarize and maybe also hand the floor if Florian allows me. I know we have Jana Gevorgian, the Secretariat Director on the call or on the session, and also Stephen Ramage. And I think in terms of summarizing some of the points that were mentioned, so we had the who, which was very interesting. I think we touched on almost all the stakeholders in the value chain. So we have the governments. There's a need to link the youth to government and already existing institutions, where there might be a gap to actually just make the introduction and get accessibility to some of the data or the tools or financing. Then we have the individual providers who maybe have a more entrepreneurial spirit, who want to step in, or PhD students who maybe have need to access more different types of information to actually bring it out. Then we had the communities on the ground who are actually experiencing already climate change risks. And then we also had the vulnerable groups like women or indigenous peoples who are in the regions who might actually need more access, and where youth can actually become sort of a translator to do some of the knowledge building and capacity development. Yes, but I would like to maybe hand the floor to, I don't know if Stephen or Jana would like to jump in and give a quick comment on this very inspiring first section of day 2. I don't know, Stephen, maybe if he's on the line, maybe he would like to jump in. I don't know if he can hear us. If not, I think we can maybe put a quick break here. I think we got a lot of insight, so if you want, feel free to continue writing in the chat. Otherwise, we will take... I'm hearing something on the line. Yes, Stephen is coming online.
Hey, Veronica.
Hi, Stephen. I just wanted to use the opportunity, since I saw you in the participant list, to jump in this very important youth track that we have now in GEO.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I was actually saying Jana should jump in, but she didn't get. Oh, here she is. Here she is. You got a double bill. You get both of us sitting about probably 5 meters away from each other. You need to hit the video thing as well, Jana. You see it?
No, you keep going. My mouth is full right now. Sorry.
So yeah, I really like Jana's idea, and I think some other people have suggested it about getting the different communities together, because I know, having supported for about the last 5 years, ladies of Landsat when they formed, women in geospatial, women of Copernicus, Mary and the team in Uganda, that there are many of these different networks and different teams. And I think GEO probably offers a place to bring them all together under the banner of Earth observations. And then what Angelica said was really valid as well, because we have in the work program about 66 activities, but it's quite obvious that some of them are under food security, some of them under water resource management. And now we have the 4th engagement priority for urban that's just been approved, where many of the things cut across. So I think it would be interesting to see, for example, we have the Water Youth Network, who Ricardo Quiroga and Angelica and others already know, and they're a PO, they're a participating organization, essentially a partner NGO. So I think some of the things are already there. It's just providing a bit more of a framework to enable or to facilitate this youth community of practice. The only thing I say is that it does have to be driven by the people who want to set it up. That's how these things are successful. So that's the only caveat is, if you want to start it, then you need to help drive it as well. Thanks, Veronica.
Thanks, Stephen. Jana, I don't know if you want to jump in as well.
Where is the best friend of a woman with at the end of the day? It's the glasses, right? To cover up all that black mascara. So I think I was maybe drawing inspiration from another brand newish activity that our capacity development community has organized, and that is a network of networks. And it just seems to me like in this space, and clearly there are a lot of youth communities, women communities around the world. I don't think there's an even distribution, even coverage of those efforts. And so if there is a lot of opportunity to cross-pollinate, learn, share, and in the process, perhaps even identify that, but there are still some things that neither of these communities are actually addressing, and then make that a kind of a focus for this new thing. So hence my thinking that perhaps really the first step could be to kind of create a network for all of these existing communities to, to communicate on this global stage, at least to promote awareness and opportunities for members who are not currently part of those communities to come in and hear and share. And like I said, also along the way to perhaps identify new challenges, new opportunities. So I'll just stop here. Thank you.
Fantastic. No, thanks, Jana. Thanks, Stephen, for those very clear words. I think two things to take away is one, we actually first have to build this community, understand where are the opportunities, but also where are the gaps, very relevant to actually maybe potentially start on one of those big gaps that is existing. And then the second, actually continue driving this. And it will depend on all the people who are part of this session today, but also beyond, to actually form a living community of practice. All right, I know we've fed a lot into the break, but let's have a quick pause. Everybody can go grab a glass of water, quickly get up and move, and we'll be back in 3 minutes. All right, welcome back everyone to the second part of day 2 of the youth track. I think most of you stayed online, and I hope you managed to get a quick breather. After the very interesting first section, we now want to move into the short presentations. We have 4 5-minute presentations by different regional speakers from different backgrounds. And yes, we're excited to start with Liliana Castillo. She's a PhD student and at the Aberystwyth University, and she will present her work on yes, in the field, basically on agricultural changes with a field study in Colombia. Liliana, thank you so much, and handing over to you.
Hi, everyone. I hope you can hear me well. Well, yeah, as you can see here, I'm a farmer and I'm an agricultural engineer, and I have focused my professional activity in the use of Earth observation data for agricultural applications. I've been involved in different projects that aim improving the official agricultural statistics in Colombia, research projects to identify areas under agroclimatic risks and areas suitable for the development of crops under climate change scenarios. And currently I'm finishing my PhD in geography, and I'm working on the development of a startup that aims to capture my experience in the academia and the field as well. Next, please. So yeah, as I mentioned, I'm currently finishing my PhD research. I'm developing currently an affordable tool to automatically detect anomalies in crop fields using optical satellite imagery. These areas, the anomalous areas, are presented in a map, so the users can identify those areas that they need to focus their attention to and can implement site-located practices to optimize the product's applications, but also to optimize productivity by obtaining more homogeneous yields along the fields. So this is particularly useful in agricultural areas that cannot afford having multiple field sensors to perform precision agricultural practices. Next, please. So yeah, during my PhD, I struggled, as many of you, to get field data. And when I finally got it, I realized that there were lots of data from many sources, but this data required also lots of organization to make it usable. So that's when I decided to become an entrepreneur and work to exploit all the data collected by farmers, and by the sensors and integrated with Earth observation data. But the first concept of the idea came up during the ISAFI week bootcamp. It was kind of a hackathon where I met other young experts in different areas that wanted to explore and develop innovative solutions in using Earth observation data. And together we created the concept of AmiGrow that aims to integrate the ground field data with Earth observation data to support decision making for farmers. Currently, we're adjusting the prototype based on the feedback we're getting from the users. Yeah, next one, please. But the experience I had during this hackathon helped me realize that there were many young scientists and experts in different areas that needed these spaces to develop joint solutions with other researchers to provide solutions to challenges that we might not be completely aware of, but for which we had the knowledge required to give innovative answers. So in that sense, when we think about how to engage better young people, I consider these kind of events are very important because then they allow people that are curious to come together and create solutions and apply their knowledge, that are knowledge in different areas, to solve particular problems and challenges that maybe they are not aware of, and they have the complete freedom of doing it because they are not representing a company or organization. So I think this is a good opportunity for you to encourage young people to come and also get insights of good ideas to to work in each one of the community of practices. So as Angelica and other participants mentioned before, there are different initiatives that congregate people, communities of practice in other, for women also at a country level or even at continent level. But I think in that sense, as you mentioned, I think a community of practice in GEO could help provide framework to link all of these initiatives and also, let's say, be connected to each of the other communities of practices from GEO. So I think it would be linking together what already exists and better canalize, I'm not sure if that word exists in English, canalize this knowledge and initiative and freshness of young people to solve many of the challenges that are facing and have been identified in each one of the community of practices. So thank you. Next one, and thank you very much. I think I was in time.
Yes, perfect, Liliana. Thanks so much. Thanks for keeping it short, but showing your expertise as a PhD student, but also the entrepreneur side of things, and that there's actually opportunities to, I think you mentioned the word channelize, but there was also another word, I think Ricardo mentioned, to humanize the data. So the link to actual application and supporting smallholder farmers on the ground, I think is very relevant. Yes, so just to flag in the chat, there's a lot going on, and before we move to the next presentation, so we really want to make this engaging, and we want to, of course, everyone to come forth if they want to get engaged as a volunteer or support in any way. We're focusing today on the Americas and Africa, but we have a similar session tomorrow, trying to cover all the regions on the globe, so as inclusive as possible. So please feel free to continue, and I'll hand over the word to Amber Kramer, who is currently working as an independent or contractor for the USGS, the US Geological Survey, and you're based in Peru, and we're excited to hear from your work.
Thank you, Veronica. Hi, everyone. Like Veronica said, my name is Amber. I'm living here in Peru. I work, as a contractor with USGS, and so a lot of my projects are related to capacity development and engaging with youth across the Americas. So that's what I'm going to try to touch on here for a few minutes for my presentation today. Next slide, please. So I did want to talk about one of our previous projects that we had back in June and July of this year, was the Mapathon Peru 2021. And so this event had many objectives, one of them being to commemorate Peru's bicentennial celebration this year. Another was also kind of a means to inform and rally the public around the incredible potential of PeruSat-1 data, which has a 70-centimeter spatial resolution. So, we tried to bring together the academic and scientific community, the decision-making communities across Peru and the Americas at this event. But most importantly, of course, with the Mapathon, our priority was to map the most vulnerable areas in Peru to, disaster-related events, most specifically in Piura and the Rimac watersheds. And we did this using PeruSat imagery. So for this project, I had the opportunity to lead the US GeoPathways team in the planning and execution of the event, together with CNIDA and many other organizations in Peru and stateside as well. Next slide, please. So to better illustrate some of the outcomes of the Mapathon event, I wanted to quickly show the Mapathon in numbers. So we had 12 different private and public organizations in the Americas involved in our event. We had 601 registrants from across 5 different countries. We had Peru, Colombia, Venezuela, Ecuador, and USA all represented at this event. So our participants mapped for 5 solid days. We saw individuals and teams really rally together and support one another. They worked enthusiastically day and night. We watched each other's progress through this dashboard that you see in the slide, which was actually built by some of our US GeoPathways students. We had over 55,000 buildings mapped over those 5 days. We had 7 dashboards created from the event as from a second category of participants in the automation of processes related to disaster response and management in Peru. And at the end of the event, we had a total of 23 students who were selected to participate and move on to the GeoPathways initiative, which we'll talk about in the next slide, please. So GeoPathways Peru comes from the GeoPathways program that was actually started in the US by the US Federal Geographic Data Committee. And the GeoPathways program really began as a way for the next generation of geospatial professionals to kind of develop their skills and knowledge. And it has several objectives that you can see here. One of those is to connect the participants of the program with professionals in their area of interest to help them develop knowledge and skills through the use of geographic information, to help them apply their knowledge and conduct research using geospatial data and technologies with the guidance of their GeoPathway leaders and sponsors. Next slide, please. So just to kind of wrap up how things have been going since the Mapathon ended in July. Since then, we've been in touch with all of our participants that moved up or that won the event and moved on to the GeoPathways program, which a lot of them are actually here today. So thank you for coming. And so since then, we've hosted several courses in GIS and imagery analysis that have been student-led by other students in the GeoPathways program. We have had many open conversations on remote sensing and GIS applications and technologies with our program leaders who are also here. We have several students that are developing projects for university internship credits, and they have AmeriGeo sponsorship. And currently, we're working with government agencies in Peru to initiate some project working groups where students can work together with professionals in some meaningful projects and get a sense of how their skills and knowledge can be applied in real-world scenarios. Next slide, please. All right, so that was just kind of a whirlwind explanation of the GeoPathways program in Peru that we're trying to get started. But we hope that this experience might one day serve as a blueprint for other GeoPathways programs and capacity development projects in the Americas and beyond. And we also plan to develop more events like the Mapathon and hackathons to really rally students and the community together. And we want the GeoPathways program to really get students and young people involved and to have their voices heard within their communities. And we think that events like this are a great way to do that. Our first class of GeoPathways Peru students are a highly motivated group. They have a lot of great ideas, and they're very excited about this opportunity to learn and grow with the program. So we, as organizers, we hope to potentially foster those connections for the students to work alongside representatives from governmental agencies, scientists, decision makers, so that someday these students might take part in those decision-making processes that will ultimately shape their future. Next slide. That's all for now. I look forward to talking more about the GeoPathways in our discussion. So thank you all for having me present today.
Thanks so much, Amber. Fantastic input and amazing to see. I see some of thumbs up and hearts flying. So amazing work on actually creating a clear link, between the knowledge and actually creating like a career path and opening up opportunities for, young experts who really deserve to get more space and access. Right. I'm looking at the time. I think we want to make sure that we still have enough time for an insightful discussion. So I would like to hand over to Sando, who is a researcher at University of Houston, expert in flood management and forecasting. Son, over to you.
Son, you're muted.
Sorry, everyone. Hello.
We can't hear you yet. I think you're still on mute.
Wait, really?
Oh, we can hear you now. We can hear you now.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yeah, so hello everyone. My name is Son Do, and I'm a first year master's student in geosensing and earth science from the University of Houston. And today I want to showcase a web app called Series that my colleague and I created to help monitoring reservoir operation. And I want to use this as an example of how we can innovate the way to show and deliver science results to attract a wider range of audience and young generation. Next slide, please.
Son, you're muted again.
Next
Son,
one,
I think
please.
you're having issues with the audio.
Yeah, next. Can you hear me now?
Now, yes.
Now we can hear you, yes.
Yeah, next one, please. Next slide. Um, so thanks to the rapid advancement of earth science, global data is becoming more and more popular, but there is still a huge discrepancy in terms of number between global reservoir database and local database. So therefore, when a scientist or an international agency want to study or investigate a reservoir or dam in a foreign country, the lack of sufficient database make it quite difficult. So to combat this problem, say you're interested in one of the reservoir that you cannot find from one of the global database, we have created series, which is an app to monitor and generate reservoir operational data. And this app also enhance a two-way interaction between the scientists and the citizen scientists, in which like from this app, the citizen scientists, including local water manager and dam owner, can use it to extract the reservoir operational data without spending too much time applying remote sensing data and algorithm. And in returns, if possible and when possible, they can send the performance of the product back to us to further develop the algorithm. Next slide, please. So in a nutshell, series have four steps. So when a user choose a coordinate, it will automatically generate a maximum reservoir boundaries, and then from a digital elevation model, you extract the reservoir barometry relationship, and also the reservoir area from any day that the Sentinel-1 synthetic aperture radar passed through the reservoir. And then from these three data, it will generate the reservoir elevation, the storage volume, or the storage change, which is important for the operational purposes. Next slide. So in here, I include the link for the app and like a quick video rundown of how it works. But can you go next slide, please? Next one. Sorry. Oh, yeah, that's just the video. If you click next, you should go to the next one. Yeah, backward. Yeah, so since I only have 5 minutes, I don't want to go too in depth into the app, but anyone is welcome to try it out. And if you have any question regarding the app, my email is listed later. So I want to use this app as like an example of how we can make science more accessible to a wider range of user by visualizing the science result through like an interactive web app or innovative way for data visualization. And especially nowadays, since you don't have to be a full stack developer anymore to make these kind of application, is definitely not difficult to make, and I believe will do wonder in attracting a wider range of audience, and also it will appeal more to the younger generation of scientists and policymakers. And also, I believe Geo Week and Geo Week event and an international and cross platform like Geo is also a great place to host to act as to host the platform and build a community so we scientists can showcase these science results and connect with other end user and policymakers to have a discussions of how we can apply the scientific finding into the real world situation. That's all I have for today. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Son, showcasing your work, and it's quite impressive to see what already can come out, doing your masters and really making usable products that is supporting local authorities or maybe like entrepreneurs. So yeah, very exciting. And also thanks for endorsing the Geo Week and participating, of course. So I would like to hand over to our last presenters. And I have to emphasize that we have a very strong female participation, which is also very encouraging. The last presentation is by Alma Maya and Kelly Mohammed. I think she's in the participant list somewhere, giving us an oversight of your work that you're doing jointly.
Awesome. Thank you, Veronica. Is Kaylee on here? Okay, she's coming on. Okay, perfect. Go ahead, Kaylee.
I think, Kelly, we can't hear you. Maybe it's something with your audio.
Do you hear me now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, sorry about that. I gave the whole intro. So I'm Kaylee Mohammed, and we're just going to talk about a couple projects that we're working on with GeoGlows. So there you go, Alma.
Yeah, and I'm Alma Meyer. And so we're both undergraduate research assistants at Brigham Young University in Provo, Utah. And our lab, the Hydroinformatics Research Lab, we're in the Department of Civil and Construction Engineering at BYU. And there are many undergraduate and graduate students involved in our research group, working on a lot of different meaningful projects related to hydrologic modeling, groundwater modeling, and software development. And we wanted to just present on a few of these projects today, and we hope to show you that the work of young researchers can be very meaningful and impactful. So next slide. So the GeoGlows ECMWF Streamflow services, can we see the next slide? It's not showing up for me. Maybe my internet is a little bit slow.
We see the forecasting model at the Streamflows and
okay, I think it's just my internet, sorry. So this is a global streamflow prediction model developed by previous students in our lab together with the Geo Global Water System interactive interface displaying the streamflow forecasts. And the benefit of this global model is that it can be accessed from anywhere in the world through an internet connection or through code using an API. It uses 51 ensemble predictions, as you can see here, which come from the ECMWF runoff ensemble forecasts, and then users can easily get the ensemble statistics like the min, max, mean, and percentiles. Now, I've had the privilege of working with researchers from Servier and with PhD students at BYU to apply and validate the GeoGlows ECMWF Streamflow services. And using, next slide. Using different statistical methods, we can show how accurate these forecasts are. And on this slide, if you can see it, the Kling-Gupta efficiency metric was used for stations in South America and Australia. We are currently looking at other metrics that will capture different aspects of accuracy. And then I was also, and then next slide. I was also able to make this resource available for use by a group from Severe who needed daily discharge providing them with reliable high-resolution data. Oh no. I was then given the opportunity to present on this project at the Geo Symposium in June. That opportunity helped me understand the bigger picture of the project much better and allowed me to connect with many others who are also involved in GeoGlows. From that experience, I can testify that students and young professionals can greatly benefit from being involved in Geo.
Perfect. Thank you, Alma. Next slide for me, please. Perfect. So I'm working on using satellite data to predict floods across the world. And to do this, we take SAR imagery or Landsat imagery to help us see potential floods. So SAR imagery is a synthetic aperture radar, and it is a type of remote sensing that measures the amount of energy that returns to the sensor to see how rough or flat the surface is. Next slide, please. And then from these images, we can be able to identify water. So we run the image through an algorithm that is able to pretty accurately identify water. So the picture on the left is the raw SAR imagery. And then the picture on the right is the water image. And the blue part is where we've identified water from the image. Next slide, please. Then from that water image, we can make a flood map. And we do this by taking our identified water and comparing it to permanent water. And we have a database that knows all of the permanent water in every river and lake. And so from that, we are able to distinguish what is flood and what is permanent water. Next slide, please. And then with these flood maps, we can do a couple different things. First, we're making an app that is able to predict floods across the world using the SAR imagery and then a predicted Streamflow. And from these two things, we can appropriately estimate the amount of flooding that will occur. And then the second thing that we're doing is making another application that will take these flood maps and accurately assess what the impact will be on the area. So this application will help people of authority make decisions to how to prepare for the flooding event, whether it be evacuation or putting up sandbags to try to divert the water somewhere else. Next slide, please. And then being a student and having the opportunity to be actively involved in Geo and connect with other professionals has been really enlightening. And it's been an awesome experience to help the world be more prepared for natural disasters. And I encourage anyone that is interested in Geo to join and learn more. So next slide. Thank you for letting us share our ideas and what we've been working on.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Alma. Great input. And I think we managed to hear most of it. Exciting to see how you engage and how you're also stepping up to, it's quite a challenge to present sometimes in a big forum. So kudos to all of you actually giving us an insight into your work and presenting this today. Perfect. I want to hand over that we still have a bit of time to actually speak and discuss to my colleague Delali Keme, who's also working for the Geo Secretariat, and she's leading the second part of today's discussion.
Thank you, Veronica, and excellent presentations from everyone so far. I'll just jump right into this section about the discussion because we would like to make good use of time. One thing that we are hoping or we will launch at the end of this youth track is a Geo Youth Community of Practice. And everyone has shared ideas so far, but it's one thing to talk about the vision that you want, and then it's another thing to actually take steps to get the vision or to realize the vision. So this moderated discussion would focus on practically what we can do as young people or how we can work together with the Geo Secretariat to have a vibrant youth community of practice. I'll start first with Mary post a question in the chat section about how will Geo be able to show or demonstrate political will in order to engage with young people. And I just wanted to say or highlight that establishing this youth track is actually a clear demonstration of the political will of Geo. And some of the gaps that Geo has already highlighted or have seen is the fact that they want young people who have that genuine interest, that vibrancy, and the time and dedication to commit to developing EO toolkits and services. So Mary, I'd just like to give you the floor. If you could just highlight, apart from Geo establishing this youth track and coming up with suggestions, what else would be a clear sign from Geo as a show of political will to establish the youth track? Oh, okay. Perhaps you can type your answer in the section. I hear you have a technical challenge, so just kindly type your answer in the comment section. The other question that I saw in the chat was, I think, was from Gilberto about where the tools can be found, the tools or the rules for making a hackathon. I think, Amber, the question was addressed to you and you wrote your email address. But if you'd just like to share a line or two about how that process was for you, that would be great.
Sure, absolutely.
No, what I meant, if you could actually like verbally give a line or two about maybe the key rules and the guidelines for making the hackathon, just in case somebody here would be interested, apart from your sharing your email address.
Sure. Yeah. So so for our scenario, we actually we partnered with, for this particular Mapathon, with Humanitarian OpenStreetMap. And so with them, we were able to create kind of study areas in those two regions of Peru that I mentioned. And then we were able to have the students map in those specific areas. And then though that data could be exported and used in like response plans for Peru in the case of a disaster event. But aside from that, in the initial stage, we did get a lot of input from different organizations and agencies in Peru to see what their priorities were, where the priority areas were, and that sort of thing. And they were really involved in the whole process of planning and organizing. And then we got the students involved as well in some of the other details as far as the tools and the apps and the websites and things like that, and the communications. So it's like a multifaceted process, but definitely having a good platform on which to map the structures or the rivers or roads or whatever is of interest for that particular event.
Thank you, Amber.
I'm happy to discuss more in detail if anybody else is interested in learning more about how to set up a Mapathon. Thank you.
Thank you too. I'd also just like to ask, can anyone share their experience about the actual time that they dedicate to, if Geo were to set up a community of practice, we want it to be driven by young people. So how much time do you think practically in a week you could dedicate to contributing to growing the community of practice from a realistic point of view as a young person, the kind of platform that you would also be interested in having in this community of practice? Will it only be virtual communications or physical ones as well? Would you like the opportunity to be paid or unpaid as well? Or actually, what practical steps do you feel needs to be taken to realize this Geo community of practice for young people? Would you like to contribute to this question, Liliana, from how you actually were able to access funding for your PhD?
Well, I think, okay, I would like first to say that there's a big chance to join Geo. So, for instance, I was participating, supporting some activities of Geo as a person, but I think maybe it would be better like to create this group like this community practice where we can canalize all the efforts from other people that are interested or young people that are interested in participating in, not only participating in GEO, but also being aware of funding opportunities. In my case, my funding opportunities were found because I was like looking on internet. So it would be a good way to integrate all the information that's going around other networks, the information that every person in the network is sharing, to canalize all these efforts and being able to support each one of the community of practices that are available. So I would say it would be, from my perspective, I don't know the details of how let's say the administrative issues of GEO, but could be a community of practices which could be in touch with each one of the other communities of practices to identify the challenges that are currently looking for a solution and transmit this information to the other members of not only GEO, but other members of the networks that could be connected through this youth community in GEO. I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Well, yes, we do want to hear as many perspectives as possible because we know youth are not they're not a homogeneous group of people. So it's definitely good to hear this perspective. So my next question would be about beyond hackathons. What else could the GEO community of youth practice do to ensure that the ideas that come from the hackathons, progress on to becoming a full-fledged, ideas? I'm not sure if maybe perhaps I think Songdo, can you perhaps talk about your app, like what is needed to take the app to the next level, because now you've created it, but how would it have a far-reaching impact and how the GEO community of practice could help to do that? I must mention here that we have 10 extra minutes because we seem to be having such a very vibrant conversation. So you have about 2 minutes to make your your suggestions, Son.
Yeah, I think maybe GEO can again, as I mentioned in the slides, maybe host is like a platform or have like a kind of like a showcase week of having all the scientists and the policymakers together, and then the scientists can present their app or their results, and then can split into group, or if any other end user are interested, they can work together in that week or that few days to elevate the result and find more ways to utilize it.
Okay, thank you for your suggestion. Perhaps, Amber, can you share some insights about the GEO Pathways experience and how it could benefit the community of practice that is being planned?
Sure, thank you. I think that, so I also participated in the GEO Pathways program in the US last year, and it was an incredible experience because we had a chance to work on, real world projects, quote unquote, with people that are in the field, professionals from different organizations and different US agencies. So I think that if we could extend that program to other parts of the world, across the Americas and beyond, and provide that same opportunity, I think it's a really good place for students and professionals, decision makers, scientists to come together and to be able to collaborate, and then have students' voices heard, because they bring so much perspective and knowledge to the table, and also it's just a great learning experience overall, just to be able to collaborate and work with so many people that are already in the field.
Thank you, Amber. So my final question goes to Alma and Kylie. If the GEO community of practice were started tomorrow, what would be the one thing that you'd like to see set up to set the foundation that you feel would be putting the right foot or a solid foot forward to make sure that the community of practice achieves its aim? Either Alma or Kylie can answer that. Yeah,
that's a great question. I'm going to leave my video off because I have slow internet. But I think what Mary said in the chat definitely has value, that young people are willing to put time in if they see a value in something for career opportunities or mentorships or things like that. I think that's definitely very, very applicable for a lot of young people. And also I saw some ideas about social media involvement and the hackathons as well. I think getting younger people involved in those kinds of things can be really helpful and beneficial. Yeah.
Great. On that note, I think we've had a great discussion section. This video is being recorded, so I'm very sure we at the Geo Secretariat would really take these suggestions to heart and come up with a very clear or solid terms of reference, and we hope with the kind of enthusiasm that has been displayed in this discussion, everyone would come on board to make sure we all achieve our collective aim of building a vibrant community of practice for youth. Veronica, back to you.
Yes, thank you, Delali. Thanks to everyone who participated today. I think we touched on a lot of different topics. So one was about the challenges with current data availability, the stakeholders in the value chain, the opportunities for young experts to step in, who are already conducting research, but also to link it to further career opportunities and clear engagement opportunities that are also linked to, like having opportunity to create a career path out of it. And then I think the third element was how to actually link it to the ongoing work to Geo, all the existing capabilities and professional network that exists, and how to actually create this additional layer or the filling the gaps that are existing, where the youth can actually become a very critical driver. And yeah, great, fantastic spirit. I think we will try to move this over into tomorrow's session, which I would like to highlight. So let me try to share my screen. With the outline of tomorrow. I hope you can see my screen. So tomorrow we're going to resume the youth track for day 3 with a similar setup of the session, but focusing on the Commonwealth of Independent States and Asia and Oceania. So we're going to start early tomorrow at 10 a.m. CET. And on Friday, we will actually try to take all the learnings that we have from today and see how we can actually launch this community of practice. Yes, so I would like to thank all the participants who were very active in the chat, and thanks for staying on with us. We were running over time. I would like to say a special thanks and lots of flying hearts and thumbs up to all our participants and the moderators, of course, and Florian in the background, who's been liaising with all of the contributors for many, many weeks and months. So thanks a lot. I hope to see you tomorrow, and good evening and good rest of the day to all of you.